Viewers and listeners joining us from different parts of the world, welcome to yet another special edition of the David Chikwaza Global South Indaba. You're watching episode 4 of our series entitled Speaking from Experience, How to Land a Highly Competitive Scholarship. Today on the Indaba, I'm joined by Fidelis Kwadwo Nketia of the University of Duisburg-Essen in Germany. He is a DAAD-HSP Scholar studying development and governance. Kwadwo, welcome to the Indaba.
Thank you very much, David. It's a pleasure to be here.
In a minute, could you please comment on why people from the Global South should take full advantage of the information being made available to them through this series?
Thank you very much. So again, in instances where people of us didn't win the lottery of birth, and we find ourselves in places where we are disadvantaged when it comes to information and it comes to access to high quality standards of education, as well as opportunities like elsewhere, like existing outside our countries. Discussions like this, discussions that gets to open up the space and gives you information about how to carry about your studies and your applications, and all to be able to help you land like very high value scholarships and attend various like institutions is very paramount and becomes very important for us to be able to bridge the information gap and be able to be super competitive in the application process. Yeah, thank you.
I'm also joined by Melanie of the University of Glasgow in the UK. She is a recipient of the prestigious Joint Erasmus Scholarship, currently studying LLM of International Law of Global Security, Peace and Development. Melanie, my friend, welcome and thank you for making the time.
Thank you so much, David. It's a pleasure to be here.
Melanie, could you please reflect on the things you remember doing in preparation for your Erasmus Mundus Scholarship application?
Yes, of course. And the Erasmus Mundus application has very specific requirements. So the first thing that I did was to prepare all the documents that are stated in the website. You can check it out there. It is very important, and I will focus on the personal statement and the application form. That is a document in which you have to explain why you are the suitable candidate to be selected for the scholarship, and also what is your motivation. I think it's a really important point to really stand out and show up why you want this scholarship and how your previous experience has prepared you to this point. And also, what is your future plan, your academic or your professional future career path, and how this master's is going to allow you, and the scholarship as a whole is going to allow you to get there. So basically, this is a very important document, and of course, be aware of the deadlines and all other requirements.
Thank you so much, Melanie. Also joining us is my other friend, Teófilo Moreno of the University of Sussex in the UK. He landed the prestigious Chevening Scholarship awarded by the British Foreign and Commonwealth Office, and he's currently studying his Master's in Governance, Development, and Public Policy. Theo, welcome to the Indaba.
Hello, David. It's a pleasure to be here, and thank you so much for inviting me.
In a minute, Theo, could you please comment on the role of the internet in equalizing the unequal world of opportunities, including accessing quality education in tandem with SDG 4?
Sure. Well, internet has been proving in the last years how important it is in opening global knowledge to be in the reach of everyone. You just need a phone to access, everything that's on the web, every publication, every video, seminar. So this means that at least in countries that have so much difference of opportunities between not only socioeconomic strata, but also between the rural and the urban population. This means that a small school in a faraway village in the mountains of Argentina or in the rural area of any country with an internet access can have the same exposure to global knowledge than schools in urban contexts, which tend to be in that way more privileged. So I think that the internet and COVID-19 has shown the importance of internet in providing access to quality education for all.
Thank you so much, Theo. Finally, I'm also joined by my other friend, Gloria Chikaunda of Stanford University in the US. Gloria was awarded the Knight-Hennessy Scholarship in 2019, a 3-year scholarship which ended in summer of 2022. She is currently pursuing a GSD at Stanford University. Gloria, welcome to the Indaba.
Hi, David. Thank you so much for having me.
So Gloria, in a minute, could you also please comment on the role that was played by scholarship videos, if any, in your Knight-Hennessy scholarship application?
Sure. Videos actually played a critical role in my preparation for the Knight-Hennessy application. It was a bit of a challenge because at the time that I applied, it had only been a year since they had their first intake. So the Knight-Hennessy Scholarship started in 2018, and I was applying into the 2019 cohort. And there wasn't a lot of information online at the time about it, and especially from scholars or applicants themselves. So I had to kind of be creative. I looked up the founders of the scholarship, Joint Hennessy and Phil Knight, and kind of looked at the public interviews that they had done, things that they cared about in relation to Knight-Hennessy, but just in general, just to get a sense of kind of the values that they have. And but I looked at other videos as well about Stanford, because Knight-Hennessy is specific to Stanford University. So I looked at a ton of videos about Stanford in general, to get to know, what the school would be like and whether I would fit in there and whether I would be happy here at Stanford, but also just to kind of manifest and visualize myself and get myself into, the spirit of being there. I always find that kind of, daydreaming and imagining myself in spaces that I want to be is like the first step to actually getting me there. So a lot of the knowing that other people have done it and other people have accomplished it, knowing their stories, listening to their stories and their challenges has helped me. And it actually inspired me to make my own YouTube video about my application to Knight-Hennessy. So, check that out online if you're curious. But yeah, because particularly for international students, because a lot of the videos I found at the time were made by students in the US, and there wasn't really a lot for people who are applying from outside of the US. It's a very different experience. It's expensive, it's complicated, and there's not a lot of hand-holding. So I think videos and other platforms were critical for my application to Knight-Hennessy.
Please don't forget to share with us the link. So we're just going to proceed to the keynote question segment, and I'm going to bring in Kwadwo again. And the question that we have for you is, you were awarded a fully funded DAAD-HSP scholarship. Could you share more details about this scholarship, including its eligibility criteria, application period, and timeline, as well as the requirements? And also, while you are at that, would you also maybe share with our viewers and listeners what aspects you believe made your application stand out?
Yes. So again, so the DAAD scholarship, it's the scholarship of the German federal government, and it's the largest funding body in the world. I think every year they fund almost about 100,000 students all across the world. So it's a pretty, but then the DAAD is the bigger umbrella of the German scholarship scheme. So underneath, they have various categories depending on what you're studying and what the scholarship seeks to achieve. And that also defines like the kind of students they are looking to attract, right? So there is a DAAD scholarship for people who study in engineering. They set up a specific fund to help students that were studying in Ukraine and all. And the particular one I'm on is Helmut Schmidt program. So that's the HSP, which is basically for public policy and good governance. So it's PPGG. So that's for students who are passionate about politics, social equity, development, and all. And so that means the category for like eligibility criteria for that, it's also pretty different from those that will be applying to DAAD APOS, DAAD PhD. Like But the general thing I'll say is every information you need will be found on the main DAAD website. So I'm going to speak to you about my experiences with the HSP. So the key, for me, the key part of the HSP is about you should be passionate about social and like political change. That is the key. So you might not necessarily have like if you can demonstrate, prove it up, and that's one nice thing about the DAAD, that they just don't put emphasis on your grades. Of course, the grades do matter, but then they also put a lot of emphasis on what you have done outside your, like in your professional space, and also what you have done to contribute to development in your own small way. So they look forward to leadership experiences. They look forward to your social contributions to, so if you have participated in NGOs and those kind of things. And that is where I would say was my biggest selling point, because looking at my professional experience and also my extracurricular activities, I've been involved in youth activism, political development, and a whole lot of others. And I was also I had a very strong leadership and political background. So for me, I believe that was my biggest selling point. Coming down to the deadlines, it actually for the HSP scholarship, it actually just opens between June and July every year, and then it's going to take 6 months to process, actually, because so it opens in 1st June and opens closes in 31st July. And then from there, within that 2 months, you're supposed to prepare and submit your application. So the idea would be that you start gathering your documentations even before it opens. And then when it opens, you just put in application in that particular regard. Normally, it's just the basics. When I say basic, it's not just, of course, because scholarship documents are a lot, but then it's your transcripts, degrees. You will need a personal statement as well, which should be very super. And the nice thing about the HSP, it allows you to apply to 2 schools with one application. So you are supposed to select 2 schools, and then depending on your profile, if the school thinks that they need you, like they would want you there, then they would get to select you from that side. You can also decide to do one, but sometimes to boost your chances, it's just like opening doing 2 applications. But because it's like the same focus, most of the programs are interrelated. So it's not just in Duisburg, you'll find some in Passau, Magdeburg, Erfurt, and other German cities. An amazing thing is you don't need a German background to be able to apply for the DAAD scholarship, because all these programs that are under the HSP are run in English. So you just have to prove that, you could speak English. And for people that come from countries that speak English alone, your university degree will attest to it, because of course, in your countries, you do study in English. But if you're coming from, let's say, a different part of the continent where your official language is not English, you'd have to prove that, like with the IELTS or the TOEFL, that you do speak English. So basically, that is the twist. And again, another major, this one will be to prove that, because it's not just enough for you to say you're involved in youth activism and development and all, you should be able to prove that. So maybe your work experiences, you can get a recommendation letter from your boss to testify to that. Sometimes if you have in your CV, if you can input like links to internet sources where you were doing some sort of activism work and all, you can put it there. And that's another nice thing, because with a DAAD scholarship, your CV has to be written in Europass form, right? So for those that don't know, you just do an Europass. If you Google Europass CV, it's going to give you a format where you can follow to prepare your CVs to be able to apply to a school in Germany. And that will allow you to input links into your CV that can direct you, that can direct whoever is reading your CV to various things that you have done. So basically, again, in a nutshell, the application window opens normally between 1st June and 31st July. And then the key selling points of the HSP is actually they are looking for people who are passionate about good governance, public policy, development, and its interrelated teams. And the ideal thing is write a very comprehensive personal statement that talks about your motivations, your background studies, what you seek to achieve after the program and all. And then I would recommend that it's the most awesome scholarship in the world. Sorry to the Chevening and the others, but then because then again, the benefits far outweighs. I can't think of, well, of course I do speak with, because the DAAD funds you to learn German for 6 months, which is very exciting. Like multilingualism, as you have known, David, you and I in Geneva, multilingualism is a very good thing. You get to bring your family on board, and the DAAD funds your family whilst you're studying, all right, to some extent. They pay for your transport in and out of the country. They can give you rent subsidies if your rent is too high. If you want to further take German, they will pay for you to. The benefit that comes with it, I would really recommend that people who want to apply for DAAD scholarships to really check it out. So I would end here, and thank you.
at this point, I'm just going to move on to Melanie. And the question that I have for you, my friend, is you were awarded a fully funded Erasmus Mundus Scholarship. Could you share with our viewers and listeners more details about the scholarship as well, including eligibility, criteria, application timeline, and of course, requirements? And while you are at that, could you also maybe share what aspects you believe made your scholarship application stand out as well?
Of course, David, thank you. The Erasmus Mundus Scholarship is a scholarship to study an Erasmus Mundus Joint Master. So first, I would like to explain that this is a master that you study in at least 3 different universities in 3 different countries, which is amazing. So the first thing you should do is check the Erasmus Mundus catalog. Every year, they publish a list of masters in different areas that you can apply for. If you just Google Erasmus Mundus Joint Masters catalog, the first thing that is going to pop out is this list of around 193 masters that you can choose from, and almost all of them have this scholarship. So the Erasmus Mundus Scholarship as such is a full scholarship that is given by the European Commission, and it covers participation costs. That means your tuition fees and full insurance coverage, also travel and installation costs, and also a monthly subsistence allowance to help you with the expenses of living in the country you're going to study. It also includes a language course for the first semester that is totally free, and you can choose the language. And right now, if you apply, you are going to receive a monthly allowance of 1,400 euros, which is a really generous scholarship. And you will have to use it to cover the travel, installation, and living expenses. When do you have to apply? The masters normally start in September. You will have to check your specific master. But if that is the case, the applications for the scholarship start on October 1st and end on January 20th. For the courses starting the following year. So for example, if you plan to start in September 2024, the applications will open soon, just this October 2023, and will close in January 2024. To apply to the scholarship and the master is really easy. You just have to apply online through the university platform, and you have to check all the documents, upload the documents, and you have the opportunity to save your application and come back again. You have around 40 days to make this process, as long as you don't miss the deadline of the scholarship. So it's a really smooth and easy process. And you have to present a series of documents, such as the copy of your undergraduate degrees, reference letters, English exams, also your CV, and the personal statement. And the selection criteria, there are 4 selection criteria for this program, which are really well described in the online website. So the first one is your academic merit. This is a scholarship and a program that really pays attention to this point, because these criteria are weighted with percentages, and the academic merit and relevant academic qualifications are weighted with 50%. So it's really high. It's a great part of the assessment. But this includes not only your undergraduate degree, but also another activities that you can do. For example, volunteer as a researcher if you have conducted research previously. But also, since this is a degree that is focused on law, you can also present some competitions, such as moot court competitions that are relevant for this topic. And then they are also going to evaluate your personal statement of motivation, this document that I was telling you that you have to explain really in detail what is your motivation, why are you suitable to the program, why you should be selected. And they also are going to evaluate your academic references. This is 10% of the evaluation, and other criteria such as your relevant professional experience, that is also 10%. So even though the academic qualifications is a really high percentage of the evaluation, I think it's also positive for those who do not have a lot of years of previous working experience. I think that's a really good positive requirement and aspect of this scholarship. What do I think it made my application stand? Besides the academic achievements and experience, I'm going to go back to the personal statement and the scholarship form. I think you have to describe in a very specific way about the courses which you want to take, the professors that you're excited to meet, and the research that you want to conduct. But also another aspect that is fundamental is what you are bringing to the program. So I think the success is in making this connection between what the program offers and what the program needs by one hand, and what you offer and what you need by the other hand. In my case, I think that was what really helped me to get the scholarship, because all applicants have great experience, and it's more about how you explain and convince the selection committee that you are the one that they should select.
The question that I have for you, Teo, is you were awarded a fully funded Master's Chevening Scholarship. Could you share with our viewers and listeners more details about that scholarship, including its eligibility criteria, application timeline and requirements, and what specific approach did you follow in landing this prestigious scholarship?
Well, the Chevening Scholarship is a scholarship that is awarded by the Foreign, Commonwealth and Development Office of the United Kingdom. Basically, it's a fully funded one-year master's scholarship to study anywhere in the UK. Most of the master degrees in the country are eligible for scholarship, except for the MBAs. So basically, the eligibility is you need to hold an undergrad degree and at least 2 years of working experience. And most of the countries of the global south are their nationals are eligible for the Chevening Scholarship. Basically, for the process, you need to present 4 essays. One is based on leadership. The other one is based on networking. Another one is based on your professional career and your future steps in your professional career. And the last one has to do with why you want to stay in the UK. Basically, the scholarship is very transparent in what they're looking for. It's not only based on merit, but it's more based on people that are leaders and networkers in their countries and their communities. This scholarship basically is aimed at the students going for a year to the UK to study and then going back to their country to apply what they learned and have a positive impact in their community. And the application process basically starts in August. It goes from the 1st of August to the 1st of November, where you have to submit those 4 essays. That takes a lot of time and a lot of thinking to do, so it's better to be prepared beforehand. So if you are planning to apply for next year, it's very good if you start working on your essays right now, because that's the first step in the application process. During November and December, there's a committee that reads all the essays and they shortlist some candidates, which are contacted in January or early February of the next year. So basically, the scholars of 2024 will be contacted in early February or late January of 2024. And then they will face an interview during April and May, in which they will have to basically state in a deeper manner why they are eligible for the scholarship. And well, the committee is there in the interview, which takes place in the British Embassy of the country, basically works on those 4 thematic areas that are the same ones of the essays. And in late June, you get contacted to well, that's the most important moment, because basically you are being told if you've been chosen or not for Chevening. At the same time, you need to apply in a different process to 3 universities in the UK, and you need to have, if you are chosen, you need to have an unconditional offer in July of at least one of those universities. What I like about this scholarship is that basically it's very open on what you want to study, because you can choose any masters as long as you can have a strong stance on why you're eligible and why you're a leader and a network in your community. I think that in that sense, the scholarship is very straightforward on what they're looking for. In my case, what helped me was to take a look on my professional and academic and personal trajectory and see what were my strengths and my weaknesses, and to see how I could become someone that was attracted for the scholarship, what I would bring to the program and to the university. And also another key point is aiming high for the next steps of your career. So Chevening is looking for people that will have an impact in their community. So you need to be someone that dreams, that aims for the stars, because that's what they are looking for. Yeah, the experience has been amazing. So I highly recommend being part of this alumni, which is 50,000 strong, from alumni from all around the world, and this has been a life-changing experience for me.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Teo. Gloria, this is your moment. You were awarded a fully funded, prestigious Stanford Knight-Hennessy scholarship. Could you share more details as well about this scholarship? Could you highlight the eligibility criteria, application timeline, and requirements as well? And while you are at that, could you also highlight aspects you believe made your scholarship application outstanding?
Sure. Thanks, David. So the Knight-Hennessy Scholarship is one of the largest, if not the largest, endowed scholarship, graduate scholarship in the world. And it's geared toward supporting graduate students from all 7 schools at Stanford, medicine, law, humanities and social sciences, business, I don't know if I forgot anything else, but yeah, all 7 schools across campus, master's and PhD programs. And it's a scholarship that is focused on building inspiring leaders. So it has a specific focus on leadership with values on interdisciplinary scholarship, independence of thought, and a civic mindset. So right now it's been running since 2018. I was admitted in the 2019 cohort, and it's a 3-year scholarship, or a maximum of 3 years. If you just want to do a 1-year master's, they fund you for that 1 year. But if you want to do, a PhD program that is, 4 to 5 years, however long, they will fund you for the first 3 years of your program. And then you can either get another internal scholarship or some other way of funding the remaining few years. But often people who come in wanting to do a master's program, and then they decide, hey, I actually want to stay longer and do a PhD program, and it helps to have that first 2 years covered. So that's one of the great things about Knight-Hennessy. It's also great because of the interdisciplinary aspect, which is one of the focuses of the university in general, and the kind of pedagogical culture at Stanford is about interdisciplinary approaches to research. So they do encourage people to, be doing multiple degrees at the same time. So you often find people who are doing like a law degree and an MBA at the same time, a medical degree and an MBA at the same time, or, 2 different PhD programs sometimes. So once again, Knight-Hennessy helps with funding because it's very expensive, and graduate school is very expensive in the United States particularly. And so Knight-Hennessy is amazing for that. They cover everything from your travel to and from home every year. They cover, housing on campus and off campus. They cover tuition, of course, and they also include in their programming other fun things that we get to do, like traveling the world. So I actually just came from India in May, and that was a fully funded 10-day trip just to meet industry leaders in India and learn. Every trip is kind of like funded, and trips across the world to different places you get to choose. So that's one of like cool things that we get to do. But there's we also have a hub on campus called Denning House, where we meet with scholars from different cohorts. We have events there. We have leaders, world leaders come and speak to us. I think we had Malala come one time. We had, of course, Phil Knight the CEO of Nike. So yeah, it's really a great program in terms of just meeting people from all across the world. Their eligibility criteria is, first of all, you have to be admitted to Stanford because it's a program that's specific to the university itself. So that means that you're applying, it's like 2 concurrent applications, one to the degree program or programs that you're interested in, and then one to the Stanford Knight-Hennessy Scholarship. And then the second eligibility criteria is having earned an undergraduate degree earned in 2017 or later, if you're intending to apply now. So 2017 or later, usually it's like 5 years before, 5 years after you have graduated. That's kind of like the time frame in which you get to apply. But all of this is on the website, so people interested can go and look. And then the application opens on June 1st, 2023. It closes October 11th, 2023. But again, this is dependent on your degree program and when that deadline is, similar to what Melanie was saying. Like it really just depends on when exactly your program is closing. So if your program and like the deadline for your program application is a little earlier, then your Knight-Hennessy application might need to be, could be later, but it definitely can't, you definitely can't apply for Knight-Hennessy after your program deadline has passed. So you kind of have to be careful about, that timing. The process is quite complicated, simply because it's, 2 different applications. And at least for the LLM, which is what I came in applying for a 1-year LLM, and then I decided to do the JSD. But that was quite an involved process because you have to send your materials as a foreign applicant into the system that then distributes your transcripts and all of that to the different law schools that you're applying to. So that may be different depending on, the particular program. If you're, applying for a STEM program, it might be a completely different process, maybe easier. But that was my process. And then at the same time, you're applying for the Knight-Hennessy. Then the Knight-Hennessy requires you to provide particular information, a transcript, unofficial transcript, because they care less about your academic performance. They let the program degree, like the program admissions people, worry about that. For them, it's really about whether or not you demonstrate those values that they care about: independent thought, civic mindset, and thoughtful leadership. So that provides, so you do that. And then that provides a segue into why I think my application possibly stood out. I want to say from the outset, it's very difficult for us as applicants on the other side of having been admitted to know why we got in. There's, various numbers, including the way that they're curating each set of scholars, right? So they want to make sure that we're complementary to one another as well. So there are things that we don't even know, why I fit in with the group that I ended up getting in with. But with that said, I do think there were 2 things that, or maybe 3 things that stood out for me. The first was that the Knight-Hennessy application is really enjoyable. It's different. They have like interesting things that they ask you and kind of out of the box. They make you think about, why really do you want to do graduate school to begin with? And they ask you to connect the dots. So what has been happening in your life, from however long ago up until this point that has gotten you to apply? And how does, this journey of yours lead you to applying to Stanford and applying to the Knight-Hennessy Scholarship? And how can Knight-Hennessy support you in your dreams or whatever it is that you're trying to accomplish going forward? So it's a very reflective, I think, application process. It really does go beyond your academic qualifications. And I think even with the degree program, while of course, you need to have, you need to show competence in whatever you're going to be doing in the program. But I think they tend to be more holistic in their approach when looking at applicants and whether or not they're suitable for a program. So even with my law degree application, while I was applying to the law school itself, I talked a lot about other things that I was involved in, in general on campus and in my career or whatever, as opposed to just talking about my grades. I was not a straight A student, so I definitely don't think it was my grades. But I think I had other things that were going for me that I was interested in. I could demonstrate that I was interested in research. So the first thing is that kind of like reflective aspect. I was really able to be authentic in telling my story and my personal statements, and not kind of give a generic answer about who I am or why I should be in this program. It's really, really important to be authentic. The second thing I think has to do with giving examples. And I think Melanie kind of touched on this, giving very specific examples. So the more specific you can be, the better, right? Like saying this is something that I started, like even using I statements, right? Which, depending on where you come from in the world, we don't come from a culture of talking about ourselves. And the US in particular has, their culture is like, own what you do, boast about who you are, obviously do it strategically and with the right tone. You don't want to sound like you're taking credit for everything. However, you should be proud of what you've accomplished and kind of, and don't underestimate what you have been doing. So if you have been volunteering, you haven't been getting paid for that, but that is a leadership quality. There are things, skills that you've learned or demonstrated while doing that can be helpful. The nice thing about the Knight-Hennessy Scholarship in particular is you can talk about things that don't have anything to do. So it could be like a job, or again, volunteering, or a project you start. You could literally talk about, a family member of yours that you've taken care of because they were ill. Those are all things that they're looking for, because this is a leadership scholarship. So giving those specific examples, demonstrating the qualities in my character and in my career journey that they care about is helpful. And one thing that I did was literally take the language from the website, put it into my draft, and then try to like reverse engineer my application in that way. And I think it's a great way to know you're ticking off exactly what they want and giving examples for each thing. The third thing that I think was absolutely critical, and I think is critical for applying to the US in general, is recommendations. They're very big on recommendations. However, again, depending on where you come from across the world and across cultures, some people believe recommendations are like, Gloria was in my class, she did a great job, that's it. Like, it's an attestation to, yes, this person, did what they say they did. Whereas a lot of the recommendations that they expect the recommender to kind of give, again, specific examples of my leadership qualities, that they know me very well, that they know my, if it's academic work, that they've read my work, and show that I'm almost like a glowing report of who I am and how I've grown and my journey and how it'll what it could look like in the future, etc. And that takes a lot of thought, I think, and it takes a lot of time. Even the technical aspects of the logistical aspects of the recommendation. So they send a link to the recommender. So you have to make sure that the recommender has an internet connection, that they know how to work that process so that they can submit the recommendation like privately without my having access to it. So things like that, right? That are taken for granted in the US because this is, their application processes are a lot more advanced than back home. And so this is something you do have to think about. And how I went around that was just really prepping my recommenders. I told them, listen, I'm applying to the Knight-Hennessy. It's 2 different applications. I'm going to send you a recommendation for the actual program that is more academic. And so write an academic recommendation that speaks to my research or speaks to, my academic qualifications or, abilities. And then on the other hand, I'm also applying to this scholarship. This is more of a leadership thing. So I need you to show in the application that I am a leader, and obviously you can't tell them what to write, but I sent them a link to the website and what the Knight-Hennessy cares about and all of this stuff, so they could take the time to kind of get to know what I was applying for and how they could help me. And then and then I also sent them a draft of like my personal statement, so it could all kind of speak to each other and make sense when I did the application. And also sometimes, like, people who are recommending for us, they're professors or they're bosses, they're busy people, so giving them as much information as possible about ourselves, because they don't know our full story, can be super, super helpful for them to write a supporting recommendation. So yeah, that's the Knight-Hennessy Scholarship. I hope that's helpful.
Very helpful. Thank you so much, Gloria. That's really helpful. And I wish we had more time, because that's the gist of exactly what we want to make known to our viewers and listeners. But I'm just going to bring in the whole panel back in a follow-up and supplementary questions segment. I would want for us just to comment on the thoughts that were coming to you serendipity as the other speakers were speaking. So I'm just going to start with my brother, Kwadwo. Any thoughts that came to your mind as the other speakers were speaking? Anything you want to emphasize on?
So apparently, I think one recurring theme that you did mention earlier has to do with your extracurriculars and how that has also paid. But then again, I would also want to emphasize that if you have not really been involved in that, you also don't have to panic a bit, because these are basically not just the only scholarships in the world. There are others that are really heavy on academic requirements and that alone. So those are ones that you could also look out for. And again, graduate school application is also very it's an intentional process. It's not something you just do out of the blue. You just make it up anyhow and expect that's going to work for you, because then you're competing against, if not thousands, probably millions of people for a particular application. I could say that for my university alone, under the HSP, they needed only 10 slots and they had close to 1,000 applications. You get it. So that should mean that you become also very intentional about it. But basically, these are just I think we are just giving you eye openers into the various kinds of scholarships. And a lot of it you have to do yourself, reading a lot. You have to read and understand a lot, and open up your scope to also asking a lot of questions, like going on LinkedIn, searching scholarship holders, sending them random messages. I think LinkedIn is a profile that you can actually DM somebody out of the blue and they'll still respond to you, if you write it good. So these are just the general observations I could make from our discussions right now.
Could you just maybe reflect on your experience benefiting from the scholarship, studying and living in Germany?
Before I moved to Germany, I didn't even know a single German word. Yes, kann ich ein bisschen Deutsch sprechen. You get it. So I can speak a little bit of German. Not like a native speaker, but then my German is good. In Germany, it's been pretty awesome. For me, the highlight has been you get to meet a lot of internationals, varying number of people, and you get to learn about the whole lot of other people. You get to find that comparatively Germany is safe. You get to, standard of living here is pretty okay. Germany has, I think, the 4th most powerful economy in the world, and you also get to realize that your options it's limitless. With regards to what you can aspire to do, even during your program, and also afterwards. Again, it's for me, it's been a very amazing experience living in Europe, and also living in a Schengen area. The fact that you get to see other 26 other countries. I can't say same for the UK guys, but then one instance, I was in Geneva with you. I didn't need a visa. The next moment you are here, the next moment you are there. I think for me, it's been a very superb, top tier experience. I would highly recommend.
Thank you so much, Kwadwo. Wow. I'm not ready to let you go yet. I have one more question for you. I want you to just speak to a viewer, a listener that is watching right now, and they're intimidated. I have come across that before, and it's really intimidating. You feel like, really, can I really apply for this and actually get it, what would you want to say to that kind of viewer or listener? What words of encouragement would you want to give them?
First thing is, you will never know you qualify until you've applied. That's the first thing. You will never know you qualify until you apply. I think doubt is the first stage of everything. If it doesn't scare you enough, then you're not doing anything significant and all. And at the moment, and I think I like what Gloria said, normally these scholarships will force you to do a very deep introspective analysis of yourself to find out why you even want to take that thing up in the first place, right? So it will make you speak to your motivations as a person, what you have been doing with your academic life, how that relates to your professional life and all. And you just take the first step. You get it. And normally it will sound easy for you to say from a we perspective, but the thing is, you have to understand it's a marathon, it's not a sprint. So you don't have to do everything within a day. And you think about it, you try, write a first draft, get to somebody to proofread it, work on your CV, try and again. And it's the application window for DAAD is very short compared to what I learned from the others, because but the DAAD-HSP is just like 2 months, like tops. So meaning you have a lot of time to before then to prepare your application and all. So I would say you will never know you could qualify. I didn't think I would qualify. Like I said, my school just takes 10 students, all right? And then you just have to try. And then when it works, fine. If it doesn't, you also have to get rid of an entitlement mentality. You don't operate, nobody owes, let me just put, nobody owes you an application, because you do find out that you're competing with equally, like people that are also equally good, and you can just put in an application and hope. So please just take the first step. All of us were like you. Some of us even come from very mundane areas you can't even think about, but we are all here. If I can make it, you can also do it. Yeah.
Great words of encouragement there. Thank you so much. So I'm just going to proceed and bring in Melanie again. First and foremost, open-ended. Any thoughts that came to you as the other speakers were speaking? I mean, these guys have been saying a lot of amazing things. Gloria, Teo, Kwadwo, amazing submissions they have made. Any thoughts that came to your mind?
Yes, David, thank you. And indeed, yeah, I felt really identified with a lot of things that they say. And I think what came to my mind is just be brave in describing what you have done in life, and do not take anything for granted, especially yourself. I think we have all been there in the place where we can get intimidated about reading the requirements, about hearing what people has done and people who have applied and get the scholarship, and you start wondering, would I be enough? And I can assure you that I think the 5 of us were there at some point. We have all been there. And one phrase that I will never forget is, if you don't start now, in 1 year, in 2 years, 3 years, you will be in the exact same place. But if you start moving, you can get there in maybe no time, or when you least expect to. So I think what I am hearing is that you have to really just take the first step. I remember that I did this. There was a point where I was really doubting if I should apply for the scholarship and even pursue a master. I was thinking maybe it's not for me. And then I just thought, I have to fight for this dream, and you just have to do it because you don't know what's going to be the result. And also, I think you have to learn to enjoy the present and the process, which is really difficult at times, but just dream big and don't be afraid and believe in yourself.
Thank you so much, Melanie. There's a point that I also took note of. I think it was Gloria and Kwadwo who were speaking as well. And I would like for you, Melanie, as well, to make a comment regarding that. The point was to do with being genuinely passionate about the things that you are saying you want to do. Because when you're applying, they want to see that you're passionate about something. And it could be, I mean, the best way to put it would be to do it guided by the SDGs, for instance, to say maybe I'm passionate to deal with the issue of hunger, zero hunger, poverty, climate change, etc., and to demonstrate that genuine interest into the things that you are talking about, and having that authenticity not speaking or writing from a generic perspective, but speaking passionately. What would you want to comment regarding that?
Yeah, I think that's key. And I think we sometimes don't even realize that we are doing a lot of things and we just want to fit into the requirements, and we maybe are like just breaking our head trying to see how we should portray this. But then if we analyze our personal story, our experiences, the thing that really moves us beyond just a requirement, we can find a lot of value in that and a lot of good material to write. So I think we all have that passion, we all have that fire inside. And as long as we find how to explain that to other people will be able to feel it. So I think it's key to really find in yourself and then find how to just share that fire and share that passion with the people who is going to hear you, because it's you and it's authentic. And as long as that's real, well, the other people is going to be able to perceive that. So I think you should just find the correct way to transmit that to other people.
Okay, without further ado, I'm going to move on to Theo. I'm going to bring in Theo, my friend. Theo, could you please come in and as well just share if there are any thoughts that came to your mind as the other speakers were speaking?
Yeah, I mean, it's very nice to see how even with other scholarships in different countries, you see like a same pattern of just regular people that take a step and they commit to a dream and they start working for it. I mean, it's not easy to be granted any scholarship. It takes a lot of hard work. I remember that I had to study a lot. I had to research a lot. I had to prepare a lot. But I learned a lot during the process too, because in the first place, I mean, in order to be granted the scholarship, I had to understand what I wanted. When I applied for the Chevening, I wasn't really sure what my next steps in my professional life were going to be, and so the scholarship forced me to see what I had done and to really dig down deep in what motivated me to do what I do and where I wanted to go. So that was the first thing that Chevening gave me in a way to take a stand on what I want for the next 5-10 years for myself first, but then to take it to a scholarship and try to impress the panel and everything, but in a personal way. It helped me a lot. And yeah, I mean, it takes courage, but I think that you learn a lot in the process, even if you don't win the scholarships. And well, I always dreamed of studying a master's abroad, and so this was an amazing opportunity for me.
I mean, that's the point. That's the point, really. And thank you for mentioning the point that when you apply, you don't lose, even if you don't win the scholarship. It's not like you have lost. You have gained something, and it can be experience. It can be, you can take it as a learning curve as to how better you can do next time you're making an application. And I do understand, especially the Chevening Scholarship. Many people don't get it like the first time they apply. Sometimes they have to apply and they get rejected, and then they have to apply again. Sometimes they get rejected, and then they have to apply again, and finally they get it. Because you are definite about, you are clear about your motivation. You are clear about why you're doing what you're doing and what exactly you want out of the whole process. Very important. Thank you so much for that, Theo. Because I mean, just as I'm moving on to Gloria, sometimes I've seen people it's understandable to some extent, that are so desperate. They just want to, for example, they just want to move from the global south and just go to the global north. And they want to do it from a position of desperation, And sometimes they think, I think it was Kwadwo who mentioned that no one owes you anything, Yes, you can be in a situation and you're so desperate to get a scholarship and maybe move to the global north, but that's just not enough. You need to demonstrate how competent you are. You need to demonstrate, you need to meet the requirements. You just have to meet the requirements, and you have to do justice in the application. And I think that's very important for people to note. It's not just that people will give you a scholarship on the basis of your desperation. As a matter of fact, I think, in my opinion, they don't even care about your desperation. They want to give you a scholarship because you meet the criteria and the requirements that they have. Something just to think about. But of course, we are running out of time, so I'm just going to move on to Gloria to do the same, just to comment as we are having this very interesting, engaging discussion. Any thoughts that came to your mind, Gloria?
Sure. Tons of thoughts. I'll try to keep it short because I am very passionate about leveling global knowledge production, and I think a lot of that has to do, unfortunately, with giving access to people from the global south to these institutions in the global north. One of the things that came to mind was when Melanie was talking about how you also have something to add. And I think when you are coming from, you know, small country on the continent, you might think, oh, I actually made that mistake. I was like, who's, you know, taking me into Stanford? And I actually applied to several Ivy League schools. And I was like, this is ridiculous. Like, and I made the mistake of not applying the first time I applied. I made the mistake of worrying about getting into the program and not worrying about the funding aspect, only to find that the funding aspect is actually probably the bigger barrier than getting into the program. Because intellectually, you know, we are often very capable. We look at these programs, we look at the criteria, we look at the content of the academic content, and we're like, I can do this, but we count ourselves out. So I think we have something very, very valuable to add to a classroom. We often have something very important to say and to contribute, intellectually, you know, academically, but even socially, you know. And I think that's something that we underestimate about ourselves, especially when you're coming from the global south. And then something that Kwadwo said about, you know, doing research. So a lot of this stuff there is an element of like, you can ask for help and you can watch these videos and all of this stuff, but there is a lot of like self-starting and a lot of advocating for yourself. You have to have awkward conversations with recommenders. Hey, you said you're going to write me a recommendation. How far along are you? You know, my deadline is coming up. You know, that it's awkward. And it's like, if you're not used to doing that, it can be difficult to complete these applications. Or asking someone to read over your personal statement. It's a vulnerable place to be in, but you have to believe in yourself. You have to kind of have a sense of no one owes you something, but sometimes people can actually respond positively to, you know, requests and to help. So don't be afraid to ask for help. Don't be afraid to say to people, hey, this is my dream. How do I get there? But also help them help you. So do the work, provide them the information that they need, show that you've done your own research, make sure you know exactly what programs you're applying to, what schools you want, why you want to go to those schools, be able to articulate those things for other people so that they can help you. And then start early. Like, it's, you know, for something like the Stanford application, it's complicated. So it helps to have like, you know, a checklist. Okay, this week I'm dealing with the personal statement. Next week I'm emailing my professor for the recommendation. The following week I'm, you know, submitting all my TOEFL results or whatever, you know, the things are. And before you know it, 2, 3, 4 months has gone by, and now you're at the point where you're actually submitting the application and it's done. It seems impossible. It seems like a mammoth task before you start, but if you take it in bite-sized chunks, it can go by. And then something you said, which I thought was really profound, is about practice. Applications require practice. And now that I'm, you know, have been in grad school for some time and I've been applying for funding internally for grants and stuff, I now have a knack for it. But it's not something that just happened. You know, people who apply often have gotten rejected quite often before they get to the point where they get a yes. Sometimes you're lucky and you apply once and it works out, but most often people who get into the spaces that we want to get into have faced a lot of failure beforehand. So it does take practice, and getting into these top fellowships and scholarships often involves rejection at least once before. So it's a skill. Applications, you can even practice with small stakes applications in your current university, if you're in university or wherever, something that, you want, but it's not as big as like applying to the Chevening or applying to the Knight-Hennessy, but starting to be able to talk about yourself, write about yourself, connect those dots, respond to, putting all those documents together really helps. And then finally, my motto is just try, let them deny. It's not your job to think for the admissions team. Your job is to give it a shot, right? And then let them figure out if you fit in or whatever, they're going to do. But it's not your job to count yourself out. It's your job to give it a shot. Take your, like, what's it called? Shoot your shot. And then if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. And but again, I want to say, because we are speaking to people from the Global South, it's a complicated process. It's often an expensive process, especially for the programs, the program applications. The scholarships themselves tend to be free, but the programs themselves require, especially if you have to take like TOEFL or other standardized tests, it adds up. And so, give yourself grace and know that you're even trying. You're at such a disadvantage from the people who are in those countries, or who are already in like those spaces. However, it can be done, and there are people who have done it, even with those disadvantages. So yeah, just try, let them deny. That's my motto. So yeah, that's it.
Important nuggets that are coming out of this Indaba. But of course, even good things, sometimes they have to come to an end. So we are now in our closing remarks segment, and I'm going to bring in Melanie just to reflect on what she considers to be the most outstanding and interesting things about the Erasmus Mundus program. I mean, you could say absolutely anything besides this within a minute as your closing remarks.
Thanks, David. Yeah, the most outstanding thing for me is the multicultural aspect of the program, because besides academic focus, the major aim of this program is to really give us this opportunity to have this multicultural exchange and study and live in different cities. For me, it has been Scotland, Spain, and I'm going to move to the Netherlands, so very different cities. And it's a really fun program. You can travel with your friends, but it also allows me to meet really inspiring people. And yes, they are great with academic qualifications, but also they have done a lot of things in all aspects of their lives, and they share this passion and this motivation. So I think that for me has a great value. And also learning from different cultures, but at the same time, challenging myself how to adapt quickly to new environments, how to adapt to new learning processes, and how to manage my own emotions and my own thoughts about everything in life. It kind of challenges you really from the inside. And I think this element of how the scholarship and the program challenge my way of thinking allows me to adapt new perspectives on myself and on the world. And that gives me life lessons, not just academic preparation or academic lessons. And I think that's the key for me. We are here in this world to really learn life lessons and to enjoy life. And I think this program has it all. So that will be the most outstanding thing for me about the Erasmus Mundus program and scholarship.
Thank you so much, my friend. I'm just going to bring in Teo. Teo, could you also in a minute reflect on your experience taking up the scholarship, and what advice would you like to leave with the audience as your closing remarks? Over to you, Teo.
Well, thank you. Yeah, in my case, Chevening has been, as I said, a life-changing experience, living abroad for a year in the UK, learning from another culture, learning from another history, having the possibility to understand different ways of thinking from around the world. I was lucky enough to go to a university which has people from all around the globe, which I didn't have it back home in Argentina. So that was a massive gain in my academic life and in my professional and personal life too, being able to debate with someone from India, someone from Central America, someone from Africa about what's going on in their countries, what challenges they're facing, and finding things in common was something that I will treasure forever. And also, being exposed to different weather, to different culture, to different way of doing things with, it was an amazing way of also evaluating how I live back home, what I like, what I don't like. And for me, the experience of living here has been something that changed the way I think, the way I relate to others, and gave me a lot of confidence in many things. And I think that Chevening has a great value, which is the Chevening community. In my university, we were more or less 100 Cheveners from different masters. So every time you met someone from Chevening, not only in the Chevening events that are hosted all around the UK, but the same in the university or in my masters, you had that point in common that you know that other person was a leader in the country, a leader in the community, someone that was strong with networking. So you got really in a tight relationship, even in a friendship, but very quickly, because you knew that even though that person was from the other corner of the world, they in a way represented many values that you brought from home. So my final reflection would be first to connect with. This is a process that requires a lot of mind, but it also requires a lot of your heart to connect with what is driving you in your life. And I think that throughout the long process, the waiting, the stress, the anxiety, what keeps you going is to be connected with what is driving you to make a change in the world.
Absolutely amazing. Thank you so much, Theo. Without wasting time, I'm just going to bring in Gloria as well to just reflect on her experience benefiting from the Knight-Hennessy Scholarship, and of course also studying in the US. Gloria, over to you, my friend.
So I think two things really come to mind. The first is like Theo and Melanie, the Knight-Hennessy Scholarship, it's not a perfect program, and that's something I want to say is that, like, you come to these schools, especially if you're coming from far away, it is an adjustment. It is difficult, and there's serious things to consider happening globally, but happening locally, especially in the United States. So it's important to think about what that transition will look like for the individual socially, in terms of their mental health, etc. However, there is no other experience that I've had that's like the Knight-Hennessy Scholarship, in terms of being surrounded by like-minded individuals, people who are passionate about solving the world's problems, people who are nerds and like very cerebral, and just are so worldly and so inspiring. And my most favorite moments so far have happened outside of the classroom, although I love my research and I love my work, but the most profound moments have been in conversations, having dinner with classmates or cohort mates from Knight-Hennessy, or on the retreats that we have that Knight-Hennessy holds, or the India trip that I was talking about. Like, things like that I've learned so much about myself and about others, and there's just no other space like that. And I would venture to even say, even if I was like in the working world, I wouldn't have this kind of concentrated inspiration 24/7 and very accessible to me. The second thing, and I think it's not very PC to say, but one of my favorite things is the funding. Like, I wouldn't be here without the money, and it is a particularly unique experience for me to be in a space where I'm not worrying about my tuition or where my rent is coming from. The freedom, that kind of freedom, allows me to think and be in my scholarship and fully immerse myself in my work, without having to worry about how I'm going to sustain and survive, and particularly for scholars with parents, because some people do come to Stanford with families, and it's a challenge, and it's something you have to think about. So that's also one of my favorite things about the program. But yeah, I think these programs are really good, and again, I want to underscore that we have something to add, so people should definitely apply. Like, just try. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much, Gloria. I wish we had more time. I mean, so many things to share there, so many things, but I would like to believe that our viewers and listeners, they have managed to fish something out of all the things that you guys have shared with them. So this marks the end of our Indaba, sadly for me. But thank you so much, our highly esteemed panelists and viewers. Viewers, do not forget to subscribe to this channel for more episodes, and also remember to visit our website, which is www.globalsouthopportunities.com for global opportunities, including scholarships, fellowships, jobs, internships, grants, or funding, as well as conferences, free online courses with certificates, so many things to offer on our website. So we're not just there to create a platform for you to get this kind of information, but we also have a platform that if you go to, you will access more information, timely information about these scholarships. We also accept, review, and publish opinion articles, which can also be instrumental in helping you land a highly competitive scholarship. So contact us for more information regarding that, if it's something that is of interest to you. Viewers and listeners and highly esteemed panelists, ciao from us, and meet you in our next episode. Thank you so much.